Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abassi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I wanted to talk about being good to yourself. And I have been very much thinking about this morning this idea of being deserving of being good to myself, because for so long I didn't think that I deserved to be happy. It's really kind of when I look back to it, I'm like, I feel sorry for that version of me. Um, but rather than swimming in those ideas that I thought of for so long, because if I do, I'll go back there probably, so easily, that it's important that I reinforce the ideas that I believe today, which is that I do deserve every bit of happiness. I deserve to be happy, healthy. Um, so I wanted to talk about that. And my reading this morning in my meeting was about this, about being good to yourself, but it reminded me of like, what do I do for other people, like my kids or my friends or my family, when they are sick or they are sad? Um, I I don't want somebody else to feel the pain, the suffering, the sadness, any of that stuff for longer than they need to. And that's one of the reasons why I record my podcast, is because if I can help somebody seek a solution or find recovery as fast as possible, honestly, it's worth me taking a time out every day to commit to that, to believe in that with conviction that I don't want to see anybody suffering from the same pain that I was suffering with for so long. I don't want other people to think that they don't deserve to live happy like the people you see around you. Um, for so long, when I was drinking, I did not believe that I deserved to have a great relationship like my friends. I didn't think that I deserved to be financially comfortable because of either all of the bad decisions that I've made in my life or because I've never had it before. I started to consider that what has happened to me thus far is the way that it is, and that's the way my life is going to be. Um, and the longer I felt that way, the more I lined myself up, arranged my life for a trajectory that had a destination no different than where I started. I wasn't aiming upward, I was aiming downward. That's really what was happening in my life. And what I heard this morning is I was paying the piper, for all that, all the imperfections. And that's not fair. That's what we're supposed to do as human beings. We're supposed to have imperfections. This life would suck if we didn't have them. Um, I was reminded this morning that alcoholism is not a moral problem. It's a disease, but it feels like it. It feels like there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with my decision maker. And that might be, but that wasn't the root problem. The root problem was I had a chemical imbalance. I've got a lot of chemicals that are are not balanced. And for so long, I tried to balance it myself. I tried to find the answer within me, and I just couldn't find it. And eventually, I turned to alcohol because I found that alcohol, maybe it didn't solve my problems, but it helped me forget about them temporarily. Um, and as I continued to drink more and more because it's a progressive disease, I began to punish myself for my inability to progress, my inability to do the adult thing, to be an adult. And I was punishing myself for my lack of perfection. Again, that's not fair. I just wasn't even treating myself fairly. Um, it's it's really amazing what we can do to ourselves just right up here between our ears. Like just telling myself over and over again that you're not gonna get this. You're not gonna have a lifetime partner. You're not gonna have a comfortable home. You're not gonna be financially secure. And you deserve that. Why? Why did I deserve that? I don't know. I ran across something on, I think it was LinkedIn. I don't know which one it was last night. And it said, what does post-traumatic uh, syndrome look like? And PTSD, I've always thought of as our brave members of the military who go fight for our freedom. That's what I thought PTSD was connected to, and only that. Um, it wasn't until I started watching movies that I learned that, oh, PTSD also is connected to people who have been through life-altering events. And for me, what that looked like, or what I thought that looked like, were these just terrible, terrible, life-threatening situations that people go through physically. Um, what I never imagined was that PTSD affects people um, not necessarily being held at gunpoint, you know, not necessarily being somebody who watched massive casualties. Um, PTSD can happen in all different situations. And being a part of my sobriety program, I have heard so many tragic stories um, of people experiencing life-altering events emotionally. It wasn't a physical uh, struggle, or it wasn't something that they saw. If it was something that they experienced. So PTSD can be an effect of an experience up here. And over the years that I've been sober, I've looked at some of that stuff. I've looked at some experiences in my life that maybe have affected me my entire life. Um, One thing that somebody has brought up so many times in my vestibular group is that the vestibular disorder has left them with PTSD. And when I first heard that, I was like, that's not fair to our brave men and women fighting for our freedom. But I get it. I get it that when we are suffering from an invisible illness and we are challenged to find help, to get help, and not only that, we have people that don't believe us or people that don't think that it's so bad. Oh, it's not so bad. I don't see anything wrong in your life, right? I don't see anything wrong with you. That can leave somebody altered for the rest of their life emotionally. And the longer that I have dealt with certain invisible illnesses in my life, without help, without getting encouragement, um, that I don't have to see something wrong with you in order to believe that there's something wrong with you. Um, that self-talk gets affected and that belief that I deserve better gets affected. How do I encourage other people who are visibly sick? Well, there's somebody, one of the folks in my fellowship, she has had walking pneumonia for a week and a half. And I was listening to her explain that, and I was like, oh my God, how terrible. A week and a half, and her worst day was yesterday. So it's just getting worse and worse. And walking pneumonia can affect you from anywhere from a week to a month. And what would I do for her if I was near her and could help take care of her? I mean, I would do anything. Um, I would do anything to try to help her get better. But do I do that with myself? How long would I allow her to recover? Would I get to this point where it's like, okay, it's been 2 weeks, like, come on, you gotta you gotta flip this thing over and start being your old self again. How long would I allow her to recover? As long as she needs it. And yet there are some people who get sober and start going to sobriety meetings, and the people around them start asking, do you, how long do you have to go to AA? That's been a question I've heard so many times over the 8 years that I've been doing this. Nobody's ever asked me that, but I've heard a lot of my friends be asked that. How long do you need to do this? Well, we need to do it for the rest of our lives. It's just like that maintenance I was talking about yesterday. It's required for as long as I want to maintain my character, you know? Um, how long, as a follow-up question, how long am I going to give myself to recover? I can tell somebody else, well, this is a lifetime a lifelong disease. This is something that needs to be maintained on a daily basis. We're given a daily reprieve contingent upon our daily maintenance, of our disease and our spiritual, daily maintenance of our spirituality. I will forget that, right? Sometimes I'll forget that, okay, I'm really busy today, but I'm still recovering today. Even on busy days, I'm recovering. And I need to always encourage my own progress. Yes, that got really, really difficult. After my first year, I got to this point where I was like, okay, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of working to stay sober. I'm tired of being sober. It wasn't the fact that I was tired of being sober. Sobriety was great. I was tired of doing the work. But I quickly remembered that it was more difficult to not be sober than it was to be sober. It took a lot more energy for me to lie and hide than it did to just go to a meeting every day. For 1 hour a day, I can sit and listen to some inspiring stories that encourage me to maintain my sobriety, um my spirituality. Sorry, I had a mind blank. Um in stroke recovery, I think it's been even more challenging for me. Especially in the beginning, right after my stroke, it was like I was constantly watching the clock and the calendar, waiting to get better. And I just started doing business as usual. As soon as I got home, I started working, I think. I may have taken a couple days off. I don't even think I did that. I went right into short-term disability, which meant that I was going to be working. Well, short-term disability is, I can't remember how it worked, but I think, oh yeah. So I decided I was going to be on short-term disability, but I was going to work part-time. And you can't keep short-term disability if you work over that certain period of time, that the certain amount of hours. You can't keep short-term disability. So I was forced to work less in order to keep my short-term disability, because I thought that if I just do this thing, what I considered slowly, progress slowly, it was not. My version of slowly was not the same version of slowly as a stroke specialist or my family would, or friends would tell me. But if I just keep watching the clock, watching the calendar, and keep trying to progress at my rate, I'll be back to normal. I was just waiting for that to happen. I was encouraging my progress. I was celebrating progress, but I was more focused on celebrating progress and being expectant of it happening than I was actually being self-aware and seeing what my progress was actually looking like. I was ignoring the pain. I just felt like if I do things this way, then I should get better at this rate. And I feel like in sobriety that happened too. I felt like, okay, if I keep going to meetings, then my sobriety should get stronger and stronger. at this allotted rate. And that's not the way that life works, but that's the way that Rachel tries to plan life. And sometimes now I know this after having to medically retire. And side note, I can't wait for the day when I have to medically retire changes to me saying, I got to medically retire. We'll see if that happens. Live action, we'll know when that happens here. But when I had to medically retire, I could see at that point that I was not going to progress at the rate that I had planned. You know, it takes me, I said this the other day, I wasn't willing to give up anything until I had to give up everything. And at that point, finally, I was able to start really being more self-aware. It wasn't instantaneous. I needed to practice being self-aware. I needed to practice being good to myself because I'd never done it. I realized that I had never put my health first, ever, ever. Um, when I had children, you know, that's what happens. As a mom, I put my children first until I got to the point where I wasn't even enough. I wasn't enough I wasn't giving my kids everything that I had, you know, because the alcohol began to take priority in my life. So I wasn't putting myself first um, in the beginning because I wanted to prioritize my kids' happiness and my kids' health, which I think is fair. But when do I prioritize my health and my happiness in order to be the best version of me that I can be for my kids? Um, I was thinking of how did we know that our kids needed a nap when they were growing up? How did you know your kids needed a nap? For me, and it looked a little different for my two kids, they got grouchy. One more than the other. You know who you are if the two of you are listening. But they needed a nap when I could see that they were not prioritizing themselves. They were starting to get whiny, right? I need this, I want that. Um, they couldn't see that what they actually needed was rest. And that's what happened to me in stroke recovery. I needed to work. I wanted to do this and that. I couldn't see that I needed to rest. And when I was resisting that need, my trajectory was changing. Um, I was pointed downward instead of pointing upward or towards any sort of positive trajectory. Um, and it has taken talking it through on my podcast. It has taken talking to a psychiatrist who specializes in health recovery and sobriety. I got a winner. I got a real winner in my psychiatrist. She specialized in all the things, all the invisible illnesses that I have been challenged with. So how did I start prioritizing my health, yet expecting perfection still from myself. So now I get to the point where I'm, okay, I get it. I get it. I need to prioritize my health. I need to rest. I need to eat well. I need to do my vestibular exercises. I need to go to the doctor. But I still want to do this. I want to be perfect at it. That's um that's just one of my, I don't want to say it's a character defect, because if I mold it the right way, my desire to be perfect, yes, it's never good to think that you want to be perfect, but I want to do the best I can. And I want the best I can to progress. So I challenge myself sometimes with, is having a having yourself pointed towards perfection, is that realizing that perfection is not going to be reached, is that what's getting me more frequent and quality progress? Um, I don't know. Like, I'm challenged with that, because am I disappointing myself when I have my um, nose pointed like an airplane, if I have my nose pointed directly at perfection? I heard this morning, this comparison to rockets. When rockets are launched in space, they are not launched with their nose pointed directly at their destination. I thought that was brilliant, because I feel like when I'm doing well in life, like when I'm feeling really positive, my nose is not pointed towards my destination. It's pointed above it. Um, and that's the way that I do things. Um, so on any given day, I do want to revisit that idea and see if that's bad for me. But today, when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, that's okay. It's okay, because it gets me further. It's like they say, reach for the stars and you may touch the moon, or so, no, reach for the moon and you will be among the stars, something like that. um, that's how I feel. So, but I don't want, when I was drinking, my nose was pointed downward, but there was something up here between my ears that was pointed upward. And I wasn't doing the work to get there. So with this mindset, I just was deteriorating. Um, I had to realize, maybe it's the deserving part. So let me revisit that. My nose was pointed downward. Um, I wanted to be happy, but I didn't think I deserved it, you know? So I wanted to point my nose upward, but I didn't think I deserved it. So it was pointed downward. And that was the way that I started going. That was my trajectory. I think where our nose is pointed is going to define our trajectory. So the first thing I needed to realize was that I deserved to be happy. And that took work. We say in the sobriety program that we will love you until you love yourself. And that was very true for me. I didn't think that I deserved to be happy. I loved myself. I've always loved being me. I've never wanted to be anyone else. I've just wanted things that other people have and didn't think that I deserved to have them. And when I finally worked the steps of the program, and I didn't have to get all the way through the steps to start seeing that I deserve to be happy. I deserve to be happy like these other sober people. I walk in the rooms and I see them smiling and laughing. And yes, I thought they were all lying. And they were all good actors and actresses when I first got there, and they were all still drunk. That's what I thought. But when I heard them sharing my story, I started to understand that they believe that that they deserve to be happy. So I, I think I deserve to be happy. And then once I truly believed that I deserve to be happy, then I got to figure out what makes me happy. And that was another mountain to climb. Um, but because I had so much more free time, because I put down the drink, I was able to start trying things out. So I tried out flea market flipping and I loved it. I tried out drinking my spritzers. You lifetime listeners know my drink of choice, which I've been drinking again now, is a sparkling water with strawberry lemonade in it. And it's my favorite and it makes me happy. I have been drinking Coca-Cola, at least one Coke a day, and I tried not to make it more than one Coke since I had my stroke. I don't know why, but I think it's because they gave it to me in the hospital, and ever since then, I just wanted a Coke. I wanted a Coke. I wanted a Coke. And we decided to get the soda stream back out because what was bothering me the most was recycling these cans. That was what, I've had this new inspiration to do upcycling and with my crafts. And the fact that I was upcycling things, but yet I was throwing these cans in the recycling every day, I thought, I can't keep doing this. I felt guilty, which is funny. So we got the soda stream back out. And really it was my husband who pointed that out in a loving way. So I got the soda stream back out and he bought Pepsi because Pepsi has a new partnership with SodaStream. So we got Pepsi syrup. And I was drinking that, not even comparable to Coca-Cola, but I converted. And then he bought some of the syrup that's kind of like sparkling water syrup. So it's not calorie rich like Pepsi. And it's my spritzer again. So that makes me happy now. Wow, that was a long explanation for why spritzers make me happy, and then I'm back on them again. Um, I also love to take care of my kids, and my kids are in their 20s now, but I love it. And because I'm more present now, I get to be more present in their lives. I get to remember my daughter has a new job. So my daughter started a new job last week. Oh, Bailey, we're allowed to say Bailey. Bailey started a new job last week, and I've been very present in that. I've given her a call a few times just to see how it's going because getting a new job is always for me, I hate it. I hate starting a new job. One of the reasons why I was scared about going into medical retirement was like, what if one day I wake up and I'm perfect again, like my head doesn't hurt and my whole vestibular disorder just poof disappears. Then I have to go through the finding a new job thing. And I was like, oh, I don't want to ever stop working because I don't want to have to start that over again. And the longer I'm recovering, the further I am away from being hip on the latest trends in marketing and government cybersecurity stuff. Um, and that was scary for me. That was part of my acceptance challenge was you got to let it go. You got to let it go and be where you are right now. That has been hard to be where I am and stop future tripping. Um, so I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk really briefly about the difference between being feeling that I deserve to be happy and feeling like I'm entitled to be happy. This word entitlement seems to come up a lot these days. Um, and it seems like a generational thing where there is some skepticism about folks in younger generations than the one that I'm in, um, feeling entitled, like looking at them and seeing this entitlement personality, characteristic. And I've seen it too, and I'm not saying everybody from the previous generations. I think that it's not a generational thing. I think that there are just people who automatically feel like they are deserving. And I think the difference between the two, and I was absolutely reminded of this morning. I was listening to a worship, which I know I don't do that. I don't talk about it ever because I haven't had the habit of doing it. But this morning, my second meeting was the topic wasn't one that I really wanted to be engaged with this morning. So I thought, I'm going to listen to a worships, like a service from, there's a church that I have been listening to that's in North Carolina. And so I listened to the service this morning. It was a recording from last Sunday. And it was taught, one of the things she said was the difference between being deserving and being entitled is gratitude. And she said, expectation takes the place of appreciation, which tells me that I don't want my new feeling of being deserving of happiness to change into an expectation that I should be happy. And I feel it sometimes. I do. If I'm being honest, I do feel sometimes that I have an expectation. It's like when you live a certain way, you expect certain things. And I don't want to have my appreciation of where I'm at in my life today be sucked out and turned into expectation, feeling entitled. Um, I don't want my I get tos to be turned into I have to. Just like I was saying earlier, I can't wait to the point when I say I had to be medically retired. I had to medically retire. I can't wait for that to turn into I got to medically retire. And I believe it's going to get there. I do. I do believe it's going to get there. And the reason why, and I shared it either yesterday or the day before, was I I knew that I was going to learn to be happy where I am. And that's happening. I'm learning to be happy where I am. And I'm definitely not using past tense for that because it is ongoing and it takes a lot of freaking work to learn to be happy where I am. But I want it to be, I get to be where I am instead of I have to be where I am. And I have to remain grateful for the happiness and serenity that I have found thus far in sobriety and in stroke recovery. I need to continue to do my gratefuls. And I have gotten out of the habit of doing my gratefuls because I thought, oh well, I'm doing well. One of the reasons why I got out of my gratefuls was because I always did them before bed and I would text them to my sponsor and my sponsees. And when my head started hurting, I couldn't do that. I couldn't text my gratefuls. And I did it when I was already in bed and the dogs were sleeping. So I didn't want to do my verbal texting, which is how I often text. I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to wake up the dogs. So I started just thinking of my gratefuls rather than texting them until eventually I forgot to do my gratefuls. And my sponsor and my sister sponsee, I think that's what they call it, started doing gratefuls again. And it's in the middle of the day. And so I've slowly been trying to pick that back up again, is finding that gratitude. That's important for me in order to continue to maintain this idea that I deserve to be happy and not have that evolve into entitlement. Um, and then finally, I was thinking this morning about how my children are watching me handle what's in front of me. And I am constantly doing this checkpoint to make sure, am I being a good example? Am I showing them how to practice gratitude? And I hope I am. And the best way I can do that is to talk about it. And that's what I do here. And thank you for joining me today. And I will talk to you tomorrow.